one lolly is lethal to the lies of leftism. Two lollies is an intellectual downpouring of Agent Orange. And now your host, Rob Lawley.
With a guy like me, I'm so animated, I'm so opinionated that people mistake my passion and my sort of attacking this poisonous ideology, sensitive, overly emotive world, especially this generation. They equate that with individual hatred, and that's a misunderstanding. And even the church misunderstands it. Even Christians, when we hear my tone of voice, and they immediately equate, oh, this guy hates. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, no individual names are coming off of my tongue. I'm not attacking individuals. I'm attacking this worldview that's costing people everything, essentially. It's costing them joy. It's costing them fullness. Of course there's going to be some spit and vinegar in my voice. That's what I want to say. You know what I mean? That's the misunderstanding that I always get caught up in. I have a believer a week will send me an email online and say, well, I can't believe that you represent Christ. And I'm thinking, why aren't you more passionate? This is the fourth quarter. This is serious. That's what I want to say.
The fourth quarter thing is spot on. There's no time to waste. Imagine a guy who lives next door to another guy, and this couple next door has a really nasty husband and a really wonderful wife. And the husband cheats on the wife, and he beats the wife, and he's just a terrible human being to the wife. He doesn't appreciate the wife. Guy confronts the neighbor and lets him know what he's doing wrong, and lets him know that it's not appropriate to do this to his wonderful wife who he doesn't deserve. And imagine even worse. Imagine this guy is trying to recruit fellow men in the neighborhood to behave this way to their spouses, to their amazing wives. Nobody would be on the side of the wife beater, of the slanderer. Nobody would be on his side. But it's so much worse than this little imagery that I'm giving you. But it's like a film. You watch the film, and who's good and who's bad is very clear. But then you get into real life, and it becomes a lot grayer. I find people forgive themselves for a lot more than they would.
Well, I love that analogy, Luke, and I like how your mind always works like that, and I think that's very applicable because I think past this generation, I look in the rear view, and I look at men like A.W. Tozer, and I look at men like early Billy Graham, and when these men got up on the pulpit, they were speaking to a generation that, first of all, had a breadth and depth of thought that we're not dealing with, but they also weren't completely emotional. They were mind, body, and soul. They were holistic individuals. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have their faults because every generation does. It's an emotive, sort of selfish, narcissistic. What I feel is uber alles. What I feel is the number one thing. And so when anybody speaks, when they speak about anything, if you have a conviction, conviction, right? If you're contrasting one thing from another, and you're saying they make this like it's hatred, like it's offensive, like you're personally attacking them, and you're not having a conversation at the sort of Thanksgiving table of ideas.
I could say a few things on this. That's why we're at as a nation. That's why we're accepting what we accept as right and wrong. But I'm saying that, when those things break down, and you have women raising men, and you have men not doing their job and not feeling a sense of responsibility for their children, you're going to have a more emotional leaning society. Obviously everything is systemic, and so the sin is systemic in our society. So a lot of the things that are becoming more frequent as far as sins go are because of these things.
Exactly, and I like how you connected the dots to the emotive sort of seed, because I think you nailed it. I think when you had the roles break down, when you had the masculine and the feminine roles. And that's why these gender conversations are so important, because, of course, people don't see big picture. They don't see bird's eye view. They see through their one narcissistic lens. But gender roles are so much more important than people think, like you said. And by the way, this is the interesting thing. The feminine role probably at some point had to step up. So this isn't necessarily a lecture. When the men dropped the ball, the women had to raise these kids, but gets smuggled into that is this hyper-feminine, hyper-sensitive, hyper-emotional way to see the world. And, of course, there's a lot of facets of civilization, a lot of facets of humanity that cannot be dictated by your emotions. First of all, people get killed, as we see evidence in many ways in our society today. Boston, I would argue, is one of those ways. And the response to Boston has been overwhelmingly emotional as a society. And here's a certain situation where masculinity is suited to step up and deal with this. And there's a lot of other instances like that in society.
Well, the president was dealing with this the way he should, which is as a leader, as I hate to say it, but as a man. I mean, look at the president. Look at his upbringing.
Exactly. I mean, he's the walking manifestation of what we're talking about.
You are listening to the At Least Antidote Show.